Hello, everyone. This is remixplum, and welcome everyone to BPT's mini podcast Extravaganza. Coming up, me and Chris are going to talk about '80s music and some of the music that we finally remember in the 1980s, and it's going to be all good. So, stay tuned, guys. The '80s music theme of BPT's mini podcast Extravaganza for August 6th begins after the station channel ID and, of course, the countdown. See you guys in a bit, and the BPT mini podcast stream begins after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and happy Sunday to all of you guys. This is Remix Plum here for Brandon Palmy Television, and how you guys doing? I hope you guys are all having a great Sunday and everything. I just want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in on the 90s music for BPT's mini podcast Extravaganza on Thursday. I had lots of fun and everything, so... anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce to you all Retro Media Vision himself, Chris Kennedy.
Okay, I thank you, Remix. Yeah, let's get me up on camera here for a minute, on the monitor here for a minute. How are you, everybody? Good to see everybody on here. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today.
And one of the new things I'm doing for the stream tonight is having the ticker on the bottom, so you guys know what the theme for the stream. And I'm gonna add that into the next stream that I'm gonna be doing. So I have to think about what theme we're gonna be doing. But yeah, so anyway. We are here, ladies and gentlemen, so we are going to go ahead and talk about 80s music. That's the theme for tonight's show, and that has to do with everything in the 1980s, because, well, why not, right? Because I was born in the 80s. Of course, Chris was born in the 80s as well. So, and everybody, was born in the generation of the 1980s. So, so there you guys go. And I gotta say too, again, we had so much fun going over the 90s music. That we did on Thursday on the YouTube channel. And so thank you guys for watching for that, because, means a lot to me growing up in the 90s and everything. I know I certainly missed some other 90s music and whatnot, but, it happens. Because we totally forget everything there is about the 90s. If I can't talk about others. And what I did forget to mention is my mic's on. All right. So the one thing I failed to mention is vitamin C from 1999. So I want to do a recap a little bit before we talk about the 80s. Vitamin C from 1999. And now she is something. Now she works for something for knit music and everything. So not only she was the singer and whatnot, but she also works uh, for something that Nick Music, which is a channel of everything music that Nickelodeon has, and she's part of it. So the songs you may remember from her is the smile, put your smile on your face, and the song that they don't play in high schools anymore, but they should, is a song called "Graduation," "Friends Forever,"
I
from that
remember,
album.
I remember Friends Forever. Yes.
Yeah, and of course "Smile," which is the song that I like. And yeah, and like I said, this came out in 1999, and I totally forgot talking about Vitamin C with those two songs in mind, and I forgot to mention Fastball as well. I probably did, but yeah, Fastball from 1998 with the songs "The Way" and "Out of My Head." Um, yeah, so those are that. And I did mention Smash Mouth, so at least I talked about them. And yeah, so there you guys go on the 90s thing. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the 1980s. And boy, what a what a year that makes when of the 1980s in music. You had some best albums and whatnot of the 1980s. You also had songs that that went unknown, and you had some that were just one hit wonders of everything. And yeah, I mean there was a heck of a lot of songs in the 1980s. Um, and I've been waiting to do this. So, but yeah. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started and talk about the songs in the 1980s. Just to start off for tonight, and but like I said, so let's go ahead and get started. So as you guys know, I wasn't born until the late 80s, 89. But there's a couple of great songs that we even mentioned on the 90s theme on Thursday, where we mentioned the Billy Joel "We Didn't Start the Fire" from 1989 to well, I want to say "Another Day in Paradise," but by Phil Collins, but I think that was 1990 that I talked about on the 90s stream. We're going to mention Phil Collins on this because he had a great year in the 80s, especially 1985 and 1989. And of course, being in the band Genesis, if you guys know Genesis, the progressive band, and I am a fan of their music, especially the one I forgot to mention on the 90s theme, and that is the album I got by Genesis. The last album ever in 1997, 25th anniversary, and everybody hates this album, but I really enjoy the album. I think it's my favorite album. So take it or leave it, if you will. But that's just how it is with that. But yeah, so yeah, we're gonna mention Phil Collins and whatnot, and of course Genesis. They hit it big. Billy Joel did too. So yeah, so that's of the stuff. So Chris, you ready to go back to the 80s?
I am ready to go back to. Yeah, definitely. Our time.
Yeah. And one of the songs right off the bat, we can tell you guys, 1980. Well, of course, 1980 was the start of the 80s, generation. And and it gave us Cool Again's song called Celebration,
Yeah.
and a way to kick off. And I know the B-52s is another new wave band. Although I think the song came out in 1979, so I can't really count it here. But they did some songs in the 80s as well. The song that I'm talking about from 1979 is a 6.5 minute song called "Walk a Lobster,"
Yeah.
which came out in 1979.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna count it because that came out
I'm
in
counting
'79.
it because it's part of the 1980s lexicon, even though it could have been it was 79. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I'd like to say this: 80s music goes back as early. For me, it goes back as early as 1978.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, that's considered part of the early 80s. Is along with the early 80s, along with the late 70s, like 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, or 83. I mean,
Yeah, and that's something I might consider doing
yeah,
70s music because 70s was a year that, yeah,
yeah,
60s music came to a close, and then a new sound would appear in the 70s. And of course, the one artist that really was a major breakthrough in the 70s was Sir Elton John. All the way back to 1970. Although he did some music in the late 60s, but it wasn't until 1970 that he really hit it big and took America by storm. So that's something that I might consider doing for 70s as well as 60s. Um, but yeah, so those will be coming at a later point because it'll be a two-person stream, including this one tonight. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, 60s is what I going to be really excited to do on the stream because 60s music is what I grew up in. When you had the oldie station that was so popular in the day, and now it's an afterthought now. And if you want to hear 60s music, you would have to go on to streaming services like Spotify or Apple Music.
yeah.
To get that genre back. And speaking of Apple Music and Spotify and Amazon, check out Electro Media Vision's or Chris Kennedy's album.
Album.
Chris Kennedy plays the hits
Okay,
on those platforms, and that way you can listen to Walkman Beat or the Conga or pretty much any of the song that you want to listen to,
the aerobic dance.
and check it out.
And I want to thank you for that remix. I did want to tell you that, uh, yeah, you can catch the old songs if it were played on the radio stations on YouTube. Yeah, you can look, you can search in YouTube and you can find oldies music.
Oh yeah, and I gotta mention Beach Boys too because the Beach Boys hit it big in 1988. That we're gonna talk about too.
Yes.
And like I said too, Phil Collins in the 80s, Elton John in the 80s. Even though that his other albums didn't do well. I mean prior to from 1980 to 1982, then 1983. That's where the album became his best selling. So we're going to talk about Elton John because again he's an icon, he's a legend, and I never get tired of listening to his music, and still a fan. And yeah, I mean he's an icon in my eyes. Um, and that's just that. Um, and of course, we're going to talk about Cyndi Lauper too, especially the album of 1983, 84. We're going to talk about that too. Um,
Oh yes.
Oh wow. And I'm just reading the thing on Wikipedia. Yep, I'm crossing April 1st. Yeah, Luke, I know you're gonna be happy about this one. April Fool's 1980. Johnson is made the new lead singer of AC/DC. That replaced Bon Scott. And yeah, AC/DC is also the ones in the 80s, obviously, along with Metallica and and all the heavy metal stuff. But we don't want to talk just about heavy metal. We want to talk about other things too, and that's why that this is going to be a special stream. And because while we want to talk about just heavy metal for like 2 hours or an hour and a half, because like I said, a lot of things happen in the 80s, and like I said, I'm a music lover, and yeah, and 80s music is out there for everybody to enjoy and listen to, not just the metal and heavy metal stuff, because there's other kinds of songs too that were so popular in the 80s.
Yeah.
um
Oh yes.
oh yeah, Bill Haley performs for the last time in South Africa, and he died in 1981 February.
Yeah.
And Sony Walkman goes on sale in the United States.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, and of course, on August 4th of 1980, John Lennon and Yoko Ono started recording of what would be the last album of his, called Double Fantasy.
Indeed.
And I do like some songs in it. Uh, like just like Starting Over, Watching the Wheels. Um, yeah, I mean, he's and of course, the song that I really enjoy out of John Lennon is from 1971, I think, called Imagine. And yeah, and Double Fantasy would be his last album before he well got murdered in December, and that's one of the things they talk about on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, yeah, see, and Elton John plays a free concert for 400,000 people in New York, and he performs the encore in the Donald Duck outfit. Oh yeah, and uh, they played this song on MTV, though I don't know if it's from 1980. But yeah, Gary Newman earned his third number one in the UK albums chart. And if you guys don't know who he is, he's most famous for the song "Cause," and and of course that would later to be um that would later be covered in 1999 Fear Factory album that has Gary Newman as well, and it's from that video game too, Test Drive 6. That's where you hear that song. But originally it was Gary Newman's one that was so popular.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I think Calls came out in '78 or so. Um, I have no idea. But yeah, they played that on MTV Classic. Um, so let's see. Um, let's see. And December 8th, John Lennon shot to death outside his apartment in New York
Oh
City.
boy. Yeah.
And the song, just like Starting Over,
Yeah.
became a number one hit in many countries, including the United States. Nice, but not so great that he got murdered. That was just that
Exactly.
that was totally something that that I never knew it could happen, and it did.
Yeah,
Phil
blamed New York
Collins,
City social services for his murder because whoever
yeah,
the gentleman, I mean the person or whatever you want to call him, the gentleman or the guy or the dude or the person,
yeah,
and he was supposed to get mental health services, which he was denied from the city. So that's why he didn't get the correct services or help or whatever, and he ended up murdering, and that's the cause of John Lennon's murder, from what I've heard.
and I won't mention names, but he was actually born where I was born in Texas. I did
Yeah,
not know that. Even
yeah,
though he's from like Hawaii, but he was actually born in my state, and
yeah.
that surprises me.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah,
Um, and of course, in 1980, Phil Collins signed a contract with Atlantic Records, which is owned by Warner Music.
yes,
And I'm glad that he signed with Atlantic because that's why he became so famous in the 1980s. Because
yeah,
he was part of Atlantic Records, which was huge at the time because it was owned by Warner Music, and that's why we have some of the best songs of him in the 80s. And and of course Genesis would have some albums too under Atlantic Records. And that was huge, especially in 1980 for him, and of course 1981 would be the major start of his solo career from of the album Face Value in 1981,
oh yes,
and that has the song "In the Air Tonight," which was a huge hit. Um, and and like I said, the rest is history. Back in '81.
yeah,
Um, so let me see. Okay, yeah, Ramones. Uh, let's see. I went on to that. Survivor. Um,
yes,
Billy Joel, Glass Houses, in March of 1980. Coal Miner's Daughter, the soundtrack in 1980.
yeah,
Um, Beach Boys, Keeping the Summer Alive in 1980. Genesis, Duke, that
yeah,
has the amazing song Misunderstanding. Um,
yeah,
and I know Elton John has an album in 1980, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
Dolly Parton had an album. Uh, Tommy Two Tone. Um, yeah, Paul McCartney, Diana Ross, Peter Gabriel. Um, yeah, Cheap Trick. Kim Carnes, The Kinks. Blue Oyster Cult. Um, yeah, Steve Hackett. Okay, July. Oh yeah, John Anderson. With James. Willie Nelson, Charlie Daniels, man. Oh yeah, Full Moon. I believe that has that song, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, The Legend of Woolly Swamp. That's a really good song, and of course in America, I was thinking of The Devil Went Down to Georgia, but that was from the '70s. Um, yeah, so in America and The Legend of Woolly Swamp that came out in July 1980. Yeah, and those two songs are awesome, especially the Legend of Woolly Swamp. That's probably my favorite song. Of course, Chicago with number 14. Eddie Money, obviously. And if you hear that messenger noise, it's because the tablet's on, and I'm not messaging anybody at the moment. So if you hear that, just ignore it.
Gotcha.
Paul Simon, uh, Cher, obviously, B-52's Wired Planet, Jethro Tull, which I really enjoy the song, especially from 1982, called Broadsword, from that Broadsword album in 1982. And yes, I do like Jethro Tull, especially with Aqualung from 1971. And probably my favorite song is the newest one that came out this year. And yeah, I really like Jethro Tull. And after that album '82, then they didn't do so well in the other albums. But yeah, Jethro Tull is another one. And I do like Jethro Tull, especially that new song that I keep playing over and over again on Spotify. I just love that song. It's really good. And I'm glad they're still doing records and whatnot because they've been doing it for a very long time. But yeah, and of course, Broadsword, 1982. I think it's from The Beast and the Broadsword. I don't know if that's the right album or not.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's from 1982. George Jones, obviously. I'm trying to find Elton John because I know he did an album in 1980. Uh, let's see. Um. Oh yeah, Dire Straits. Yeah, you can't forget about them. Creedence Clearwater Revival, the concert. It's not really a new album, but more like a concert, if you will. ABBA, Bette Midler, John Anderson, Neil Diamond, the jazz singer. Uh, yeah. Aerosmith, Greatest Hits, Double Fantasy, obviously. I Okay. I thought there was a Elton album in 1980. I guess not.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, apparently, well, if I'm not mistaken, Elton did a song in 1980 that was a really huge hit called Genie in 1980. It was huge, number three on the Billboard chart, and I do like Little Genie. And I think that's from the 21 at 33 album. And then after that, the other albums didn't do well until 1983. So I think I'll mention Elton John. Why not? Of course, 1981, The Fox. 1982, Jump Up, which has an awesome song called Empty Garden. That was, in dedication of John Lennon. Um, yeah, it's a good album. I don't know what's wrong
Yeah.
with it. But yeah, Empty Garden is a great song. 1982.
Yeah.
And the album that really for him that he came back strong in the '80s was his album in 1983,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite albums, and all the songs are great. And that is Too Low for Zero in 1983,
Um,
and I like and the title track song is my absolute favorite. And like I said, there's a crap ton of other songs I enjoy, especially "I'm Still Standing" from 1983.
yeah. John, I'm still standing.
Really, really good song. Coldest Christmas in Middle of the Year, really great starter. I know some people don't like that song, but I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy every song on the album because I go from track 1 all the way up to 10, and I listen to every one of them, and I don't skip any of them. Of course, Too Low for Zero, the title track, being my absolute favorite. That's why I wanted the CD just for that song. But it wasn't really true because I wanted it because it was my favorite album. And of course, the song that's another popular song besides I'm Still Standing
Yeah.
is, I guess that's why they call it The Blues from 1983. It's my favorite song. My mother likes this song, and it's such a great song. And they play it on the radio still to this day. I guess that's why I call it The Blues. Such an awesome song from 1983.
Oh yeah.
Of course, Crystal, love that song. And I also enjoy singing that song too. Won't do it on the stream because you know why. I mean, come on now. Um, Kiss the Bride, and that song was used in the 2021 song Cold Heart by Elton John and Dua Lipa. And that was one of the songs mentioned on the Cold Heart, and I really enjoy Kiss the Bride. Um, but yeah, every music on the album is awesome. That's why I consider that to be my favorite album of his in the '80s. Then of course, Breaking Hearts in 1984, which has some good music in it. Sad Song Say It So Much from 1984. Um, what else? And Neon, obviously. Um, but yeah, Burning Bridges. Pretty much, and who wear those shoes? I don't know. And then, of course, he went really downhill after 1983 and 84, because 1985 would be his poorest Billboard chart rating, and that's Ice on Fire from 1985.
Yeah.
But it has a good song though called Nikita in 1985. That's a good song. And now if you want to talk about one of the worst of the worst, and that is 1986 Leather Jackets, and everybody hates this album.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, especially with the song that Elton John would do an interview saying that it was one of the worst songs he's ever done, and he hates it still to this day, and he will never perform that song because he just don't like the lyrics and everything. And I really like the song because I heard it in his Greatest Hits Volume 3 album. And of course, he did the greatest hits ones too, Volume 1 and Volume 2 in the '70s. Of course, Volume 3 that was supposed to be Volume 3, and they replaced it with 1976 to '86,
Yeah.
and that did not make a lot of sense. But yeah, the song I'm talking about is "Heartache All Over the World" from 1986. That's actually a good song. That's the only good thing about the album is the song. But otherwise, I would skip the album because it's probably the worst album. Now, like I said, I am a huge Elton John fan, and even I will admit that there's some songs I don't really enjoy. Especially the one I forgot to mention in the '90s music from Rocky 5, which is one of the worst walkie movie ever, and that the song I don't really like is the song that he did from that soundtrack or from that movie that is in the ending credits. I really don't care for it. It's called "The Measure of a Man" from Walkie 5, and that's my least favorite. Tiny Dancer used to be my least favorite, but I love that song now. Love Tiny Dancer. And same thing that I said with the one. I didn't really like the song at first, but like, nope. I really enjoy the song. So you see, guys,
Yeah.
yeah, when it comes to music, I can be nitpicky sometimes and, pick the songs that I don't really listen to or I don't sing or enjoy because that's who I am as a music lover. So I take that with a grain of salt. But So if I have to say that, then yeah, you guys will be the first to understand this whole thing. Um, but yeah, Rocky Five, yeah, don't see that movie. Uh, but yeah, so Leather Jackets. Of course, he did the live in Australia where he did music. He did some of my favorite songs like "Burn Down the Mission." From 1970, one of my favorites, and one of my favorite songs from Blue Moods from 1976, and that's on the Live in Australia album, is a 7.5 minute masterpiece that I personally enjoy, called Tonight. And what it is, it starts off with this amazing 3 minute overture, the instrumental part, and then the 2.5 minutes is him singing. And my favorite part about the song would be the instrumental melody that he does from the start of the song to where he starts singing at the 3 minute mark. And that to me is my one of my favorite songs. And we're gonna talk about him in the 70s because he was humongous in the 1970s.
Oh yeah.
I tell you, he I tell you, this is why I'm still an Elton fan ever since being in elementary school. I know. And yeah, I dig his music. And when I was a teenager, and whatnot, uh, yeah, I never, I said to myself that when I become a teenager, I'm gonna still listen to his music because I really enjoy his music and everything, and I'm still a fan still to this day. In my adult years, and I still listen to his music, and yeah, I just yeah, he's awesome. Uh, Big influence, if you will. Um, but yeah, even Final Fantasy composer Nobuo Uematsu has said that Elton John is one of his influences because he writes such great melodies, and I have to agree because he is a iconic Final Fantasy composer, Mr. Uematsu, and he's one of my favorites as well. Yeah, Rad Racer, and then Final Fantasy from the 80s, and yes, I really like Rad Racer. What I
Yeah.
don't like is the paint pawn action where you gotta really slow down because you get in this paint pawn effect, and you're gonna slam right into to a sign,
Yeah.
and your car's gonna crash, and you're gonna lose precious seconds.
Oh
Uh, but yeah, Rad Racer is still a great game.
yeah.
But there's a lot of frustrations over that game too. Um, and of course, 1988 would for Elton John would be his comeback, called Red Strikes Back, and of course that's his real name, obviously, but he didn't use Reginald because that wouldn't be great for a stage name, so that's why he went with the most obvious. And he did really well in 1988. Mona Lisa and Mad Hatters Part 2, to Word in Spanish, and probably my favorite one from the album, I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That, from 1988. And he don't perform that song anymore either. No, he performs Empty Garden because it's just bad memories, obviously. But that's one of the highlights of the 80s for him is Empty Garden, and of course his comeback album, Too Low for Zero, 1983.
Yeah.
So obviously that. Um, yeah, so that's 1988, and of course 1989 would be a song from the album "Sleeping with the Past," 1989,
Yeah.
and this had some good songs too. Durban Deep, and his number one adult contemporary song, yeah, which hit number one on the AC, is a song called Healing Hands, and I really like the song too. And yeah, Healing Hands is his number one AC chart and whatnot, the adult contemporary. And of course, I like the title track song, Sleeping with the Past. and the song that is number one in the UK, but not so much here in America, is and I think it was released as a single in 1990, but it's in the album called "Sacrifice" from that album.
Yeah.
Such a good song too. And that pretty much goes for everything of Elton John in the 1980s. And like I said, he had albums he didn't do well from 1980 to 82, but then in 83 he would really strike back and release one of my
Yeah.
favorite albums, which actually turns 40 this year. And after 40 years later, it's still one of the best albums, and it has great, awesome songs that none of them doesn't get a skip in my book because they're all great to listen to. Whether if you hum along, with "I'm Still Standing" or "Too Low for Zero," or I guess that's what I call it, the blues, then this is an album you should definitely listen and really enjoy because this album is my personal favorite, and that's one out of the whole five of favorite albums. The other ones are from the '70s and the one from the '90s that I talked about, and one in 2016 as well. So in a nutshell, that's everything Elton John of the 1980s.
Cool.
So he did well in the 80s, though. His sales didn't probably approve, and the Billboard, he you know didn't get the recognition and everything in that perspective. But you know what? He did pretty good for himself,
Excellent.
especially in 1983, where he hit it big with "Too Low for Zero." Uh, Again, which is one of my favorite albums too. Um, and of course, the worst one of the bunch would be "Leather Jackets" in 1986, because Billy Joel had an album in 1986, and we're gonna mention him too on this stream because Billy Joel was huge in the 80s too.
Yes.
I
Especially
mean,
where,
after I take a sip of strawberry water,
yeah, Uptown Girl is a good
just
song.
to wet my whistle
God, you
from talking too much. But um, so that's Elton John and everything of the 1980s. And yes, still to this day, I still listen to his music. That's why I'm paying for Spotify Premium. And by the way, what sucks about Spotify now is that now it's 10.99 a month instead of the 9.99 a month that started from the beginning. So now Spotify is gonna be the last one to have the 10.99 a month thing. So now Spotify is 10.99, Apple Music is 10.99. So everywhere you look, in music streaming, you're gonna be paying 10.99. So
yeah.
I'm forced to pay 10.99, but you know what? It shouldn't bother me because I'm gonna still pay for Spotify Premium so I can have the highest quality audio and be able to download playlists. And I think those are the two best features in Spotify, and Apple Music as well. Even though Apple Music, I would say, is probably a little bit better because all the music is AAC, and I think Spotify uses OGG Vorbis or whatever. So I think AEC probably sounds better than OGG Vorbis. MP3 doesn't sound all that great because it's kind of lossy, and but AAC is definitely oh, sorry about that, is the one that I like the most. Especially when you buy the music on iTunes, and all of them are AAC.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Spotify uses OGG. Um, I know it's weird, but so that's Elton John for you. Well, that's Elton John for the '80s.
Yeah.
So now I want to talk about Billy Joel because he had some amazing stuff in the '80s, especially with Glass Houses that I mentioned. Um, I don't know if you remember that album, but like I said, I do somewhat. Just like I said, I wouldn't hear any of that until I got the Essential Billy Joel on a CD that contained his songs and whatnot. Um, but yeah, Glass Houses. I mean, let's talk about that. So the songs that you guys remember from Glass Houses, you probably remember the songs "It's Still Rock and Roll to Me" from 1980,
Yes.
as well as "You May Be Right."
Yeah.
And this, excuse me, and the song that I like from Glass Houses is a song called "Don't Ask Me Why" from that album. Uh, which is a good song, and and sometimes a fantasy from 1980. Um, I don't know if he did anything in 1981. I think he did "Songs in the Attic," which has
Which has a
um, what's that song? Uh, "She's Got Away." That was originally in 1971 or 72, but he was so ticked off with how you know produced on a record. And I do remember one point that he took that record, that vinyl, and he used it as a frisbee and slammed it against the wall, and he was really upset for the way that how it came out, because it was in the incorrect speed, sounded like a chipmunk, and that really made him over the boiling point. If it's like to the point that, he's, this put, such and such is making fun of him and whatnot, and totally unacceptable when it comes to the music game. You can't sound like a chipmunk, because that's not how it works in the music industry. You don't do that to anybody. All right, that's something you should not do. Um, but yeah, so that was 1972. But anyway, um, now 1982, the Nylon Curtain,
the nylon
which
cut.
has some good music from 1982. Songs like Allentown, uh, and the song that I enjoyed, that synth heavy Pressure,
Yeah.
and of course the music video is really something else. But yeah, Pressure, which is a good one. And I think there was a song called "She's Right on Time" from that album.
Yeah.
And I think that's all I can remember from that. But yeah, "She's Right on Time," "Pressure," "Allentown," and everything. And the one that he become famous is 1983, "An Innocent Man," which
Yes.
is a inspiring of different genre and whatnot. But yeah, 1983 is "An Innocent Man." The title track, obviously. And I know that you probably like this song, "The Longest Time."
Yeah, I've heard it. It's pretty good.
Yep, good song. And of course, the song that I enjoy from that album is "Uptown Girl."
Yeah, me too. Yeah, Uptown Girl.
Love "Uptown Girl," and I like "Innocent Man" as well.
Yep.
Um, and a bunch of others from that.
Easy Money.
Um, and of
Easy.
course, like I said, "Uptown Girl."
Easy.
Um,
Yep.
the For the longest time,
Yeah. Careless Talk. Keeping the Faith this night.
and I can't think of the other ones from that album. Um,
Christy Lee. Easy Money. Leave a Tender Moment Alone.
oh
Keeping
yeah, that one. Yeah. Oh, and keeping the faith.
Yeah, that's it. Keeping the faith. And then there was
Hmm.
talk. Tell her about it.
Oh yeah, that one. I forgot about that. Tell her about it.
And you remember Easy Money, right?
Mm,
That's
but
money. Yeah.
okay, and I don't think he did anything in '84, but I know he did a greatest hits album and he did some new song,
Yeah.
whatnot, called "The Only Human Second Win." That's from his greatest hits album. 1986. This was the last album to have the Family Productions logo, because Billy Joel really got fed up with it, and then it kind of almost destroyed his music career because of the thing that happened on his 1971-72 album, and and of course, you know, the whole production just didn't go well, and uh, and the engineers just didn't have a clue on what he would sound like and everything. Instead they made fun of him and sound like a chipmunk and all that other stuff.
Mm.
But anyway, the album I'm talking about from 1986 is an album called The Bridge from 1986. Now, unlike Leather Jackets, there's some good music in The Bridge that I really enjoy. Now, obviously, Baby Grand with the duet of Ray Charles. The songs that I like in the album are "Wanted on Ice," and the song that would and this song that would become his number one, "A Darker Temporary," which is one of my favorite songs from the album,
Yeah.
called "This Is the Time" from 1986. This is the time to remember. That's one of my favorites from that album. Um, Really good song. I really enjoy it. "Wanted on Ice" as well. Then he did a song with Cyndi Lauper called "Code of Silence."
Yes.
Uh, and then the last song he did for that album is a song called "Temptation." Either "Temptation" or that "Getting Closer." I think it's "Getting Closer." I'm thinking of something else. Because there was only like 9 songs in the album, or 10. I think there was 9. I'm thinking of something else, but "Getting Closer" I think is the name of it from that album. I could be wrong about that. Um, so that's obviously The Bridge, 1986, and again that was the last album to have the Family Productions and whatnot. Now we're going to talk about the big one, 1989 with Stormfront.
Yeah.
Obviously, the title track is awesome. And there's a song that would later become a cover version of Garth Brooks, and I like Billy Joel's version the best than Garth Brooks. Is a song called "Shameless,"
Yes.
which I prefer the Billy Joel version because he does it so well. Uh, of course, uh, that Alexa or Alex or whatever, the downstream of something Bay from that album. I forgot. It was named after his daughter at the time. I think it was the Down Eastern something. Um, and of course, I Go to Extremes. Uh, and So It Goes, which started in 1983, and then didn't get released to 1989. And So It Goes, which is a piano ballad and whatnot. That's a good song, nice soft song. Uh, of course, Stormfront, the title track. and I mentioned I Go to Extremes, and the number one song of 1989. And this is one of my favorite songs. I did not like this song at first, but yeah, that quickly changed my opinion on this because this is an awesome song from 1989, and that is "We Didn't Start the Fire."
I remember that. Oh yes.
Yes, "We Didn't Start the Fire." Such a great song. That was a huge hit, number one back then. And I forgot Leningrad. That's another one I forgot to mention. Leningrad, which was on the album, and I remember that one too. Um, it's yeah. So that song, Leningrad. Um, then of course we haven't, and then of course 4 years. He would release what probably be his final album, and he didn't make any more new music afterwards in 1993, and that is the River of Dreams album that came out in 1993. And of course, the famous painting the famous album cover that had that painting and whatnot. Yeah. So the songs and whatnot that I remember, but like I said, this is the '80s thing, not the '90s. But like I said, River Dreams and Middle of the Night from that album, Lullaby, uh, No Man's Land, obviously, uh, All About Soul, and Famous Last Words, and that was a way of him saying, "Well, these are the words I want to mention because this is my last album."
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, even though that's from 1993 and not really '80s, but yeah. So I might as well, just talk about that a little bit because I forgot to mention that in the '90s music.
Yeah.
So that's Billy Joel for you, and everything. Now I want to talk about the next one, which is Phil Collins.
Well,
I mean,
yes.
who can't forget of his music? Um,
Yes.
and so obviously, and like I said, he was part of Genesis at the time when he did the solo work. Um, so let's see. So 1981, obviously, Face Value. You may remember the songs "In the Air Tonight." Oh, I miss again,
Yes.
and whatnot. I believe 1982 is "Hello, I Must Be Going," which has the cover of "You Can't Hurry Love." And I know you remember "In the Air Tonight" as well as the "Hello, I Must Be Going." Um, yeah, "In the Air Tonight," most popular song, especially that when that drum kicks in. It's so iconic, and that's just letting you know of the anger that's in that song, and that's where that drum comes in. Sadly, he can't do it anymore because he's in a wheelchair. Sadly, and he can't play the drums, obviously. But yeah, "You Can't Hurry Love," uh, and of course, "I Don't Care Anymore."
Yeah. Take me home.
Uh, from that album. Now, this song would not be in his album until the Hits album in 1998.
Yeah.
This is 1984, but yeah, 1982 was "Hello, I Must Be Going," and it has those songs. "I Don't Care Anymore," um, and "You Can't Hurry Love," a cover of Diana Ross and the Supremes version of the '60s, and I do like that song.
I,
1984, obviously, it was on the soundtrack, and that was his number one hit. I really don't care for it, but I know Chris enjoys it. Song called "Against All Odds"
yeah.
from 1984. That was his number one hit. And now the big one, 1985 with No Jacket Required. And you may remember songs like Susudio, and of course one of my favorite songs from No Jacket Required, and it's one of my absolute favorite songs. And of course, you got to see the music video if you haven't seen it. It's really corny and cheesy. And the song is called "Don't Lose My Number."
Yes, don't lose my.
That is my favorite song from the album. Is "Don't Lose My Number."
Sounds like Entertainment Tonight in Hollywood Squares.
Really enjoy it. And of course, One More Night is on there too. That I know. Who said I would, and of course, the closure, if you will. I don't know if it's really a closure, but it's his well-known song from that, and that is the song called "Take Me Home."
Yes, take me home. Yeah.
So that was 1985, and that album sold extremely well. I think it sold like 12 million copies. I mean, it's just insane. Um, yeah, so that's No Jacket Required. Obviously, everybody knows that album for those songs and whatnot. And now I want to talk about one of my favorite albums of his, and that is, and it was a big year for him in 1989. And all around the world, this album was number one, including here in the United States and in UK, but it was number one here in America, and this was a huge album back in 1989. The album that I'm talking about is "But Seriously."
Yes.
I mean, who cannot forget "But Seriously"? I mean, this is an album that I enjoy listening to. There's a lot of great music on that. Uh, so the songs, "Something Happened on the Way to Heaven," "Do You Remember," um, the other ones too that I'm drawing a blank. But yeah, "Do You Remember?" And the song that's a 8 minute, 8.5 minute song, which I really enjoy. It's a song called "Colors." That's COLOURS. That is a 8 minute song, and I can't really tell you what it's about or the backstory, but all I know is that it's a great song. It starts off slow at the 2.5 minutes, and then when it gets to three, and you hear that pumping and whatnot, and then you get to hear that drum so hard, and and then it starts off with the amazing guitar riff and the bass and whatnot. Yeah, if you haven't heard of the song "Colors," you should listen to it. It's an 8.5 minute song, and it's a really good song from the "But Seriously" album. And of course, the song that you guys probably remember. And I forgot to mention. Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, all right. "I Wish It Would Rain Down." That Eric featuring Eric Clapton on the guitar. "I Wish It Would Rain Down." And of course, the song that Chris probably knows and enjoys is a song called "Another Day in Paradise,"
Yeah.
which originally was going to be titled "Homeless," but it was changed to "Another Day in Paradise." And yeah, so there's two more songs on this album. One is called "Father to Son," which mentions about something. I don't know what it's about, but yeah, that one. And one of my all-time favorite songs on this album. This not only it's the 12th track in the album, the last track of the because it had 12 songs in it. But not only it's the 12th track, but this is also without a doubt one of my favorite songs of the album. This is probably gonna be the spotlight and gonna be to the top when it comes to it, because I play this song more than I do with any other song on the album. This is one of the best songs from the album, the 12th and final song, and I like this version than I do with the concert version. But I like the album one a lot more. And this is without a doubt one of my favorite Phil Collins songs ever from this album, and that is "Find a Way to My Heart."
Yes.
That is one of my favorites. I love this song dearly. The 12th and final track, and it's one of the best songs on the album. When I first heard it, like, yeah, this is gonna be the song that I'm gonna listen to nonstop. And it turned out to be that, yeah. After I got done with it, I wanted to play it again because it was just amazing. From the awesome bass to the guitars, and especially at the 440, 450 mark. I gotta tell you, rather than me telling you about it, I mean, don't play it on the stream first of all, but after the stream, you guys need to hear that song. You can find it on YouTube, find it on Spotify and whatnot. Find a Way to My Heart, one of the best songs from But Seriously, and that's probably why I like the album so much, is because of that song. And I play that song out of all the songs in the album. That one and Colors are the ones I play the most, but I do like the other ones too. But yeah, Find a Way to My Heart, absolutely my favorite song, and I know everybody else likes this song too. It's upbeat and it's just amazing. And this is a song that you will get off the floor or get off the bed and dance along with this 6.5 minute song. I think it's about 6 minutes and 15, and it is an excellent song. It's one of my favorite songs from Phil Collins from that album. So Find a Way to My Heart is the name of it. You gotta listen to it, especially at the end. It will kind of blow your mind when you hear it. It's just an incredible song, and I really enjoy it a lot. So that is everything Phil Collins of the 1980s, and obviously he had albums in the 90s and of course the 2000s, but that's pretty much that of the 1980s of Phil Collins. So whether you listen to whether you listen to Face Value or Hello I Must Be Going or No Jacket Required or But Seriously, either one is going to feel your mood and enjoy some of Phil Collins' music. Especially Don't Lose My Number from 1985 and Find a Way to My Heart in 1989. Yeah, such great songs, in my opinion. But yeah, that's Phil Collins for you in a nutshell.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And of course, I do want to talk about Technotronic a little bit, even though that some of the songs weren't released as a signal, as a singles to like the 90s and whatnot. But I do gotta mention them. Especially with their album in 1989 that was released in 1989 called Pump Up the Jam.
Yeah.
And if you guys know, I am a huge techno lover and I love house and dance music. I really love it because I enjoy it, and instead of the whole negativity kind of thing, you just get off and you dance and you enjoy the house and the electronic music and the techno music, and that's what Pump Up the Jam is all about. Is that album? Whether you listen to the title track or you listen to Get Up Before the Night Is Over, or you listen to one of my favorite songs from this album, although it wasn't released till '92 as a single. And that is a song called Move This, featuring Yacht Kid K. And that I love that song. That's one of my favorites. Get Up Before the Night Is Over. And of course, the song that was in Ninja Turtles 3. Yeah, I know, one of the worst movies. It's a song called Walking Over the Beat from the Pump Up the Jam album. And that's pretty much all I gotta say about Pump Up the Jam. Is the title track, Get Up Before the Night is Over, Move This, and the one I just mentioned, Walking Over the Beat. And so that's Technotronic with Pump Up the Jam in 1989.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, Richard Marx, can't forget about him, especially the one song he did that I really enjoy. It's kind of a ballad song of 1989 called White Here Waiting from 1989, I think. Uh, yeah, it's such a great song. White Here Waiting, really good song. That's the only song that I know from him, is that song. Um, of course, B-52s. Well, not the song, but the album, Cosmic Thing.
Yes, and then there was Love Shack.
Yeah, Love Shack is a great song. Now, some people don't like it as much, but I certainly do. Of course, Cosmic Thing, the title track.
Can I be frank with you? I grew to love that song.
Yeah.
I grew to love that song over time. Especially when
Right.
you used that song for my projects. I said, no, I love this song.
Yep. Cosmic Thing, the title track. Love Shack, obviously. Channel Z. Um,
Yeah.
because all they're getting is a bunch of static and no picture. Sucks to be them, but yeah. Yeah, I digress. So that's that. Channel Z, great song. And the 10th song, which is an instrumental, I think it's called "Follow Your Bliss" or something like that. That's a good way to end Cosmic Thing from 1989. Is "Follow Your Bliss." So that's obviously Cosmic Thing from B-52s back in '89. And I just mentioned, Sleeping with the Past, Elton John, 1989. Um, Now I know What's Look Sharp is from 1988, but I think this song is from '89. And it's one of my favorite songs, and it was a huge hit. And it has a song that you may know as "The Look" from 88, '89. And I kind of forgot the other songs that are in the album. I know, I forget sometimes, people. Um, it has to do with age. I mean, come on. But yeah, The Look, obviously. Um, and of course, Genesis. We can't forget about them. Especially 1980 Duke, which has the song Misunderstanding, which is a good song.
Oh, what
Um,
Taco putting on the Ritz?
we'll mention Taco. Speaking of Taco,
Yeah.
from that album, which has that one famous song
Yeah.
from Irvin Berlin, and that is the number 5 hit or the number 7 hit called "Putting on the Ritz" from 1982.
Definitely.
Which is an extremely old song from Ivan Berlin.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the taco version is probably the one that you probably know and love out of all the other versions of the song and
Definitely.
whatnot. But yeah, definitely Putting on the List from 1982.
It has to be.
Can't forget about that song.
I remember
That,
Berling version.
Yeah, and sadly, one hit wonder.
Yeah,
Sadly,
loved it though. Art,
because that was his well-known song of '82.
I must say, I loved it regardless if it was a one-hit wonder.
And I think the other song from that Duke album is a song called "No Reply at All." Um, from that album, but all I know is "Misunderstanding." But I know
I,
uh, "No Reply at All"
yeah,
from the Duke album. And of course, Genesis, 1983, with
yes,
"Turn It On Again," and of course, "That's All." And of course, the biggest record in the '80s was 1986, "Invisible Touch,"
yeah.
which was a huge album, #1 in the UK and #3 in America, and that's probably the highest charted album was peaked at #3 in America. Then of course, "We Can't Dance" from '91. I think I talked about that in the '90s music. That was #4 in the Billboard. But yeah, "Invisible Touch" was probably the highest charted album. Was #3,
Definitely.
and it has the songs that you guys know and love, like the title track album, or "Into Deep," which is one of my favorites, and the song that you guys probably all familiar with, and that is "Land of Confusion."
Yeah,
Um, and of course, the song they don't perform live. The live version, because they said it's one of the hardest songs to do. Uh, and yeah, I think it probably is, but it's still an awesome song called "Everything She Does," or "Anything She Does," rather, "Anything She Does." Um, and of course, "Domino" parts 1 and 2, the Domino song.
oh yeah,
Um, and "Forming It All Away." Um, but yeah, "Land of Confusion," um, "Invisible Touch," "Into Deep," um, "Anything She Does," which is an awesome song. Um, and that's pretty much it of the '80s for Genesis, because they only released a few, uh, as much as they did back in the '70s.
oh yeah.
Um, and of course, the '90s, they only had 2 albums in the '90s, and they're both great albums as well. But like I said, I may never understand record company, or I may never understand any of the promotion and whatnot. But I think that album that I have in my closet from 1997 is one of my favorite albums.
I,
And yet it got little to no promotion. And even though it did well in the United Kingdom at #2 on the Billboard, it did poorly here in America. Peaked at #54, and that was the end. And I think because of it, I think that's why the album suffered, because of little to no promotion, and they just didn't like the new singer, and I did. I just enjoyed it, and people, they can disagree with me if they want. Diehard Genesis fans will probably disagree with me, but that's okay. I mean,
all right, yeah.
that's just stating the facts and just stating what I have to say. Is the best judgment. So that's Genesis. And now I think we need to talk about, besides what we just mentioned, Taco putting on the whips, we need to talk about the Go-Go's. I forgot to talk about them.
We got the beat, and
Uh-huh. Yeah, we got the beat, and
our lips are sealed.
Yeah, All Lips Are Sealed. That's another one.
Yes. Forgot about that. I'm sorry.
The Vacation song
I
in the 80s. That Vacation. Um, and the song Head Over Heels, I think is the name of that song. I don't know.
Rule the world.
I gotta look her up on Wikipedia, but it's that one song that I like.
Tears for
I think
Fears.
it's called. I
Everybody
think it's
the
the
world.
name of it, but I could be wrong.
The world, is that it?
Um, and I think that's
On Me by Aha.
and then of course uh the lead singer would move on. Uh, that she would be later be known as a song called "Heaven Is a Place on Earth" in 1987,
Aha.
and I do like that song. I think I think her name is Belinda Carlisle.
Yes, same person that did I Get Weak in
Hmm.
1988. I think she was from the Go-Go's, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she was the lead singer.
Oh yes, Sheena Easton for Your Eyes Only. What else do I remember? Yeah, I
And
Need
then
Hearts by Stacey Q. What else do I remember of the 80s? Oh yeah, I Need You. Another song called I Need You by Richard John Smith, 1984-85.
okay, it's called Head Over Heels. That's the name of it from 1984 from
Yeah,
Talk Show. Um, yeah, Talk Show, 1984.
yeah, 1984.
March 19th, 1984.
And
Uh, let's see. Yeah, Head Over Heels.
Everybody Wants to Rule.
Kathy Valentine and Charlotte Caffey wrote it. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's the name of that song. Head Over Heels. Okay, yeah, that's the one I like.
Here's for Fear.
Um, and that's the only one that I know out of it.
Everybody
And it
Rule
was
the
number
World.
11 on the Hot 100.
Oh yeah, we are the world. Stepping out.
Yeah, USA for Africa.
Oh yeah, Stepping Out by Joe Jackson. What else? Uh,
Probably what's love got to do with it.
yep, New Tina Turner, New Kids on the Block. What else?
And obviously Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Thriller, yeah, anything Michael Jackson and
Yeah,
uh,
like the title track or Billie Jean or Human Nature.
yep, Abracadabra.
Oh yeah.
Steve Miller Band was my favorite. Oh yeah, Centerfold. You remember that?
Oh yeah, Jay Giles band, Centerfold,
My favorite, 1981-82.
and Freeze Frame.
Freeze Frame, that was another favorite of mine.
Yep. And of course, Dire Straits, 1985, and whatnot. Or was it 86? Yeah, there's one song I like of theirs, and it's called Walk of Life from 1986.
Yep.
Obviously, Money for Nothing is the most popular song, but I really enjoy Walk of Life because it's my favorite song, and I love that song.
Then you had Paul Davis and Footloose from Kenny Loggins.
I like the synthesizer that they use in Walk of Life. That's why I like the song so much.
Flashdance. Remember that
Yeah,
one?
Maniac.
Anything Flashdance and Cindy Lauper.
Yeah, and Kenny Loggins was huge too. With Footloose.
Footloose.
The soundtrack.
Boys.
The two songs, obviously.
East Williams. Let's hear it for the boy. Let's hear it
Um,
for the boy.
yeah. And the two songs from Kenny Loggins, the Footloose song, and the song that I like the most from the movie, that would be on his essential Kenny Loggins,
Oh,
and
cool.
that is "I'm Free." Heaven helps the man from. That's probably my favorite song of that from the film. And of course, 1986 Top Gun, Danger Zone, obviously.
So, right?
Because, like I said, he was the king of the soundtrack, Kenny Loggins, back then in the 80s.
Yes, he was. Do you remember? I have to ask you. Do you remember "Let's Hear It for the Boys" and from Footloose?
Yes, I remember that.
Do you remember Ghostbusters also?
Yep. Which is a holiday, Halloween tradition. Ray Parker Jr., if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Ray Parker Jr. Yeah,
Yep, I remember that song.
yeah. What else do I remember? Emergency, Cool in the Gang, You Are the One. What else do I remember? Let's hear
And
it
the
for
other Halloween song that I like is DJ Jazzy Jeff, and that's
yeah.
A Nightmare on My Street
Oh,
from
cool.
1988.
Yeah.
That is a great Halloween song, and
Do you remember
really, really great song from DJ
by?
Jazzy Jeff.
Do you remember a song that went "Creatures of the Night" was actually titled "Self Control" by Laura Branigan? 1984,
Mm,
Laura Branigan, "Self Control," and then you had one that was called Prince. Prince, yes, I Would Die for You.
uh-huh.
1999. A couple of his songs. Remember Prince?
Yeah,
Remix. Yep, Prince was 80s.
yeah, and Purple Rain.
Purple Rain, yes.
Um,
And the freestyle songs, let's not forget. Yeah, the freestyle songs like TKA was a few of them. TKA, what else? Yeah, TKA, you had, George Lamont, Bad of the Heart, TKA, Diamond Girl.
mm-hmm.
The
And of course, I can't forget the 1988 of uh, Wob Bass and DJ with "It Takes Two,"
Yes, definitely.
which they used in the M&M's commercial and Best Western. But yeah, that's one of those songs in the 80s, of that song.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, like I said, because my favorite song of his from the 80s is a song called "Smooth Criminal" from the Bad album.
Oh yeah, I remember Human Nature was
That that is probably my favorite song of his, is "Smooth Criminal." Um, and of course, you got that album as well, with "Bad," um, "Man in the Mirror," uh, "Smooth Criminal," like I mentioned, "The Way You Make Me Feel,"
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and so that's that. And of course, we can't forget about Phil, because that's still one of his best-selling records of 1982, 83. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, and when Halloween comes in less than 2 months, I'm sure every radio station's going to be playing that song, or "Abracadabra,"
Mm-hmm.
or "Don't Fear the Reaper," or "A Nightmare on My Street." Because I know they played it on that one station last year, and I was so happy for them to play it, because it's a great song. Um, and of course, Ghostbusters. We can't forget about that song too.
Oh yeah.
So we can't forget that.
Absolutely.
So Cyndi Lauper is one I want to talk next. She's so unusual, 1983, and it has some of the well-known songs like "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," which had in the music video Captain Lou Albano, the guy that he was part of the wrestling scene and became a manager. And before the Super Mario Bros. Super Show as Mario, he was in that music video and whatnot. And so that song, and the song that I really want to keep it on the safe side because I don't want to mention to everybody what the song is all about. But I can tell you it's a good song, and it's called She Bop.
Yeah.
And I won't talk about what's in it because I want to try to keep it clean here. But yeah, so that song. And of course, a huge hit in 1984, Time After Time,
Yes.
which is an awesome song. One of my favorite songs from Cyndi Lauper, and didn't make it into a music video, but it's an awesome song, and I still enjoy this song because of the instruments and whatnot. It's a song called All Through the Night. And that is one of my favorite songs, is All Through the Night.
Oh, yeah.
And such a great song. But yeah, and that album did really well. Don't know about, and of course, the 1986 title track album, which happens to be my favorite song. Then the Phil Collins one, obviously, in 1998, is a song called True Colors.
True Colors, yes.
So that's another good one from that album. And of course, the song that I like in 1989 is the song called I Drove All Night, which is a really good one.
I'm sorry.
And of course, you can find those songs on the Essential Cyndi Lauper.
Oh.
Which also has that song from the movie The Goonies. Goonies Are Good Enough.
Gotcha.
Which you also hear in the video game, the Goonies and Goonies 2. The first one on Famicom and the second one on the NES by Konami.
Yeah.
And you get to hear that theme song.
Higher, like the one the one they did was Key of E, whereas the one I played on the Nintendo was Key of F. Well, C sharp and key of D and F.
So like I said, there was a lot of great video game music in the 80s as well.
Yeah.
Just like I talked about with the 90s video game music.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Cyndi Lauper, obviously. And of course, there's a song that was famous in 1985, but it would be famous until Stranger Things, and that's a song by Kate Bush called "Running Up the Hill."
Yeah.
Really good song. Back in the 80s. And of course, you mentioned Putting on Wits. The song that I also forgot to mention, and if I don't mention this song, it's going to kick me in the butt. Because this is one of my favorite songs when it came out in 81, 82. And I love the lyrics of this song. I love everything about it. And of course, on the Spotify playlist, I have not one, but at least 7 or 8 different types of this song. And this song is so popular now. I don't know why they don't play this song on the radio station, but they do play the other one from 86 or whatnot, or 85. But they never played this song because I don't know why. A bunch of idiots, I guess. I don't know. But the song that I'm talking about, and it's one of my personal favorites of the 80s, and that is Kim Wilde's Kids in America.
Yes, America.
Love this song. I love everything about it from start to finish, and I love the lyrics, and I love everything about the song. There is nothing bad with this song. Not one entirely bad thing I have to say about it, because it is one of the best songs of the '80s, and it's my personal favorite song. And of course, I like the other cover ones too, like Billy Joe Armstrong, and Tiffany has one as well. The Muffs has one as well. Um, and I would pick those. But the original Kim Wired version of 81, 82 of Kids in America is definitely should be the song you should listen to. Just this is one of the greatest songs ever.
I remember I Think We're Alone Now
And
by
I love Kids in America. It's one of my absolute favorite songs in the 80s.
No Secret made a remix of those. Loading.
One of my absolute favorite songs from sure. Um, of course, Crowded House, Don't Dream It's Over. A great song. Oh, and I mentioned this on the '90s music, but this wasn't in the '90s music, and that is Donny Osmond, because he had a huge song back in 1988, and that was his number two hit here in America. It was considered a comeback because of the failures he had and whatnot. While his sister, on the other hand, did really well, called "Meet Me in Montana," the country song. Um, but he had an incredible song in 1988, and this is one of my favorite songs from Donny Osmond, and that's how I became a fan of him. Not in his kid years in the '70s, but I like him more in the '80s, especially '88. And the song that I'm talking about, which is his number two hit, and it's my personal favorite, it's called "Soldier of Love" from 1988.
Yeah.
Such a great song. "Soldier of Love" by Donny Osmond. Such an awesome song. Um,
Oh yeah.
Awesome song. Um, let's see. New Kids on the Block. We gotta talk about them, especially the 1988 acclaimed album, the title track album that is called "Hangin' Tough" from 1988.
Yeah.
And it has the songs that I remember, like "You Got It," "The White Stuff," "Please Don't Go Girl," um, and of course the number one hit song, "I'll Be Loving You Forever," I think,
Yeah.
which is the ballad song of 1989. I think it's called "I'll Be Loving You Forever." I don't know if that's the right name, but I do know that song. And Jordan's high pitched at the end of the song, well known for that one. And of course, the title track as well, "Hanging Tough" from '89.
Yeah.
And "Cover Girl." Um, and I remember "My Favorite Girl" as well. But yeah, so those are the songs, obviously. "You Got It," "Please Don't Go Girl," um, "I'll Be Loving You," uh, which was the number one hit. Of course, "Hanging Tough" and "Cover Girl." That's New Kids on the Block for you, even though their debut album didn't do so well,
Mm-hmm.
sadly. Um, so that's them. Uh, Next one I want to talk about is "Tears for Fears,"
Yes.
with two awesome songs from that one awesome album, and that is "Shout" and the song that I enjoy, "Everybody Wants to Rule the World."
Yes, that's what I was talking about before. Oh yes, you got it. Yep.
Uh-huh. Definitely that one. Um, obviously those two songs, and the other ones too. Uh, but yeah, so Tears for Fears, obviously. We mentioned Belinda Carlisle, Heaven is a Place on Earth.
Oh yeah.
That song, obviously. The Beach Boys, I forgot about them because they hit it big in 1988, even though they don't like the music video. Oh, everybody hates the music video, but it's a well-known song of 1988, and it's from the movie Cocktail, and the song is called Kokomo
Kokomo, yes.
from 1988, and that was the number one hit. And this was the song that Brian Wilson was not in. He did not help with the song, and he was not in the music video. And of course, the Disaster album in 1992, which we don't talk about, but yeah, I mean that was a huge one from 1988, Kokomo.
Kokomo, yes.
You know, from the surviving members at the time. You know, Mike Love and of course Carl Wilson. Um, you know, Bruce and Al. And of course, in the music video, John Stamos is in there too, who would later do a song that Dennis Wilson did in 1970 called Forever. That was on that Beach Boys album in '92. Yeah, so John Stamos is in that music video, who was in Full House.
Yeah.
And he also performed the song Forever on one of the episodes of Full House, and he actually sings that Beach Boys song that Dennis Wilson wrote in the 70s, 1970.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that we know about the Beach Boys, because they didn't do well in the 80s, except for that one song, and that was about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, kind of sucks, but at the same time, I mean, you know, that you know that's that obviously. Uh, of course, everybody knows Aha, Take on Me. I'm sure everybody knows that song.
Yeah.
Or you know, or the Footloose stuff in 1984. And there's one thing I forgot to mention. Phil Collins had some songs in the soundtrack to a movie called Buster in 1988. It was all about the Great Train Robbery of 1964, I think. But it has songs like A Groovy Kind of Love, which was a cover, and his number one hit, Two Hearts, from that Buster movie. Especially Two Hearts. I remember that one. So I forgot to mention that he did the soundtrack to that as well. Is Two Hearts? Not no. Well, is the Buster album, which has those songs. I know what I'm saying. I just can't say it straight. But anyway, got a horse in my throat. But yeah, it's like, all right, shut it down, horse. All right. Who said anything about a horse? Yeah, the Wheel of Fortune reference. He's like, what does it have to do with anything with a horse? Yeah, you can be the judge of that. Let's see. I know I'm missing something. Oh, the song from LA Dream Team, and what happened? Not only the album flopped and it did so horrible at the Billboard charts, that happened to be one of the only albums they ever done for MCA Records. And then after that, they didn't release another because of how bad it was on the Billboard chart. But it does have one good song, and that is "The Dream Team Is in the House" from 1985/86.
Yes.
And when I heard that on that one radio station, which they play a bunch of hip hop crap, they actually played that song on that radio station for the first time, and I didn't know what it was, but this turned out to be the song from 1985/86. And that song also has a reference uh, and they do that little synth solo where they played the theme to Gilligan's Island, uh, but they didn't steal the lyrics of the song. Well, they did a little bit, but it was totally different. But you hear that Gilligan's Island theme in that song. I don't know how they managed to do that, but yeah, so that song, "The Dream Team Is in the House," and if you hear at the almost to the end of the song, you hear that Gilligan's Isle whatnot, and you get to hear that on the song.
Yeah.
And so that's LA Dream Team, and what happened? They flopped. They didn't have a hit on anything. Wasn't not only the album wasn't a hit, but that song did not chart the album or chart the tracks and whatnot. So yeah, it went nowhere and whatnot. Sadly. Um, that's that, I guess. I mean, as much as it hurts me to say. Of course, Queen, we can't forget about them with Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and No One Bites the Dust.
Yeah.
And of course, Freddie Mercury had a solo album that he did, the Platts cover of "The Great Pretender," a very old song from the Platters, "The Great Pretender." And Luke used to listen to that song all the time because he used to like Freddie Mercury and all of that. But ever since he changed his style of music, then yeah, he would never listen to it again, obviously. But that's the song, obviously. That's another one from 1987. And I know that I'm missing a lot, because we mentioned Jay Gow's band, Centerfold and Frame,
Yeah.
and I mentioned "Kids in America" by Kim Wilde. Um, well, yeah, Culture Club. Do you really want to hurt me? Uh, Church of the Poison Mind. And of course their signature song, "Karma Chameleon."
Karma Chameleon. Yes.
Uh-huh. So there you go of Culture Club, and of course Christmas songs in the '80s. I know that Christmas in July is over, and we got to wait about 3.5 months and whatnot.
Yeah.
But some of the Christmas songs that you guys remember, well, you got "Winter Wonderland" by the Eurythmics in 1987.
Yes.
Band-Aid, "Do They Know It's Christmas?" Um,
Yeah. Your
what
favorite
else?
song. One of your favorite songs.
Yeah,
Try to guess which one. Sorry, it's from 1981, I believe. Your favorite song.
I don't. Oh yeah, 1981, 82. Yeah, "The Waitresses," one of my favorite Christmas songs, and that's "Christmas Rappin'."
Yes.
One of my favorite holiday songs. It used to have been Elton John, "Step Into Christmas," but that's my number two now. But
Yeah.
hey, even though it's my number two favorite, I still listen to that song, and I still play that song because I love that song as well. Step into Christmas, 1973, awesome Christmas song. But yeah, Christmas Rapping is definitely my number one favorite by the Waitresses in 1981. Such a great song.
Oh yes,
Love
definitely.
that song.
Oh yeah.
And obviously the one that, this was not the Mariah Carey's version of this song, but it was a country version of it. Totally different lyrics, by the way, from 1989. And this is a song that gets played a lot in the holiday season. And I'm sure they're going to play it for when they, change the format to all Christmas and whatnot. And like I said, this is not the Mariah Carey version because this song got covered by Sammy Kershaw and obviously Kelly Clarkson. I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to hear her version of it, but the Sammy Kershaw one I like the best. But
Yeah.
this is my mother's favorite Christmas song of 1989, and it's a most popular holiday song of all. It's a country song from 1989, and that's the song called "All I Want for Christmas Is You" by Vince Vance and the Valiants, and
Yes.
that is from 1989. All I Want for Christmas Is You, not the Mariah Carey version that would became popular in the 90s. But I'm talking about the Vance Vance and the Valiants uh, from 1989, and they played that song on country stations and whatever radio stations that play Christmas music. They probably would play that song because it's still the most iconic and the most well-known, most played song ever, and it's that song. And every time you hear it on the radio, you gotta turn up the volume and listen. Well, if you listen to the song, from the lead singer and whatnot, or you hear the amazing I don't really care for it, but the amazing saxophone solo from Jim Horn, who plays that saxophone in the video that's in that song. You may remember that one as well. The solo of the saxophone by Jim Horn in that song, and then gets to the end and whatnot. So that's obviously my mother's favorite song, and I don't really care for it myself, but I do like the Sammy Kershaw one that he did a cover of. But yeah, All I Want for Christmas Is You from 1989, Vince Vance and the Valiants.
Oh yes.
Obviously that one
Gotcha.
as the Christmas song of 1989.
Oh yeah. There was one. What was that? Oh yeah, definitely. I remembered now. Bruce Springsteen. Santa Claus is coming to town.
Yep, obviously that one.
Yeah, and I just wanted to give you some other memories too of some songs, some other stuff about some songs.
Hmm.
Luther Vandross and Lionel Richie were very popular then. With Luther Vandross, especially doing hosting "Never Too Much," his songs. I believe that was 1982 or 1983. And then he and there was also also remember like the various like Wham, Careless Whisper, and Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. And then there was
Uh-huh.
Kenny G in the 80s, and then the various all the different smooth jazz music in the
Tommy
80s.
Two Tone,
Yeah.
8675309.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Bangers, I forgot to talk about them.
Yeah. Bangles. The Bangles, at least I know it was Walk Like an Egyptian.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah,
And of course, Manic Monday from 1986.
that one too. I remember that.
Um, and of course the song they did in 88, 89 called Internal Flame,
Yes.
which is a good song. And of course they did a cover of Paul Simon and all Garfunkel, and that's the song called Hazy Shade of Winter.
Oh yeah.
That was a huge hit, and even though it wasn't a number one song, it was number two. And the song that stopped them from getting a number one, I believe it was Tiffany who had that number one song from that album.
Yeah.
Uh, I forgot the name of it.
I think we're all
Um,
correct.
well, that one and
Oh,
um,
I forget
oh
the.
my god, yeah, I'm drawing a blank, but
Uh,
yeah, I think We're
yeah,
Alone
yeah.
Now is number one. Um, oh my god.
This was 1987, correct?
Yeah, this was 1987.
Yes.
Um,
Trying to find out.
yeah, it was one of them, obviously.
Or it could have been, or I saw him stand.
Yeah, could have been, yeah,
Could
that
have.
one. Yeah, that was a song that put the hazy shade of winter from being at the number one spot. It was that song that kind of stopped them from getting the number one spots. But hey, hazy shade of winter, number
Yeah.
two on the Billboard. I mean, you can't get much better than that, you know. And of course, Tiffany, who had two number ones and whatnot. And I think We're Alone Now, which is a cover of Tommy James and Shondel's version,
Yes.
which is an awesome song from Tiffany. Uh, and of course, she did the sort of cover of the Beatles. I saw her standing there, but it's I saw him standing there.
Yeah.
And yeah, could have been. That's the one yeah, that one from that. And after that album came out, uh, then when the other albums came out, her popularity dwindled, and none of the songs would ever become hits again. And that's pretty much what happened. And of course, Universal made the 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 one decision. I don't know if it's right or wrong. For her to play as Judy Jetson in the Jetsons movie from 1990, and that's something I also forgot to talk about on the 90s music, and
Oh
that's the
wow.
Jetson soundtrack, which
Gotcha.
has those songs by Tiffany and the one by Shane Sutton, who did a song called, which is a song by New Edition called "With You All the Way," which is an awesome song. And you know what? Just like the Land Before Time soundtrack being hard to find, this one is even more difficult um, than the Land Before Time soundtrack, which is one of my favorite soundtracks, by the way, in 1988, 89. So not only the movie was awesome, but the soundtrack was the best part of the movie. And I know for Luke it would be The Grinch from 2000, but for me it would definitely be The Land Before Time, 1988, 89. Definitely.
Oh yes. Do you remember? And of course your favorite cover band. I mean your favorite band, the Jetsons itself. Also
Yep.
named.
And yeah, speaking of the Jetsons, I forgot about them too, because this song was inspired Brad Betzer, who composed music for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and did a song for that game called Ice Cap Zone. And that song has a big reference to the Jetsons' 1982 lost song that probably would have been a hit in the 80s had it been on the Billboard charts, but you would find that on the Complete Jetsons. That's with a Z, not an S.
Like
From
a J
2008,
O N S.
and it happens to be one of my favorite songs called "Hard Times."
Hard times, yes.
And I like the other songs too on the album. But yeah, "Hard Times" is definitely the one that I played the most out of all the songs on the album. But yeah, Brad Butcher, who did the keyboards for the band, did the music for Sonic 3, and 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 on the re-releases and whatnot, especially Sonic Origins Plus, they got rid of that famous ice cap zone from the Brad Butcher, as well as Launch Base Zone, and they completely changed it up by the Sega composers and whatnot, especially that guy who did the Sonic music for Sonic 3, Sonic Knuckles, and of course one of my favorites, Sonic 3D Blast. Um, did the songs. Now I don't know if they were new or not, but they were probably in some sort of a beta form of those songs that were used in the beta version, and now it's in the Sonic Origins Plus. So yeah, so getting rid of that famous ice cap zone music that you know and love in Sonic 3 and turn it into something else is really going to turn us away. But there's still great new renditions by this composer of Sonic. But everybody is going to know the Launch Base one or even the Ice Cap Zone, which has that Hard Times feel to it, because it almost sounds just like that song Hard Times from 1982 from the Jetsons. And yes, I really enjoy that song. That song I play, and that's on repeat right now on Spotify. That's on my personal on repeat, where I play the song over and over again. And that song is definitely on that list. Besides Jeff or Tall and Three Doors Down and all of them, and of course I have the Phil Collins one, Colors or Find a Way to My Heart, either one. But yeah, Hard Times is definitely up there, and it's one of my favorite songs. And when I heard it for the first time, I discovered it on YouTube. I'm like, oh my god, this is a great song. How come this wasn't a hit in the 80s? And this blew my mind. Why was it not a hit in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would have been. But apparently, that they're not well known, but this is still an awesome song, and all the songs are great. Real Time, when the sun goes down, not the Kenny Chesney song, but it's a different one. But out of all the songs, Hard Times would definitely be the on top, because it's getting like 1 million to 2 million 2 million plays on Spotify, and that's probably the well-known song. And in fact, if you want to buy the song, you can buy the Complete Jetsons with a Z. And you can buy that on iTunes/Apple Music. I'm sure you can do that on Apple Music. Or you can buy it on Amazon, because I bought it on Amazon Music. I know, because it's MP3, but I bought it because I wanted that song in my library, because I love this song, and such a great song. But yeah, Hard Times is definitely up there with the songs that I really enjoy. But yeah, you were thinking about the Jetsons more than I was thinking of something else. But yeah, Hard Times, it's an awesome song.
Gotcha.
And I hope everybody can agree with me on this. But yeah, I mean, it's a great song.
Yeah.
Again, if you know the Ice Cap Zone from Sonic 3, then you're definitely gonna know what it's about. Because like I said, I did not know this until I was watching it on YouTube, when I found out that it was actually from a song in 1982 that was previously unreleased and whatnot. Because there was a documentary or something, or the making of Sonic 3, and then I found out that it was actually from that song in the 80s, and they even played a small sample of the song, and that's how I quickly knew about it, and why I enjoy the song still.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you like the Ice Cap Zone music in that game, Sonic 3, the original on the Genesis, not the re-release, that's on the Sonic Origins Plus. Yeah, I mean, you know, just give it a listen between the two. The Jetsons' Hard Times from '82 and Brad Butzer's one from Ice Cap Zone in Sonic 3 in 1994. And side by side, it almost sounds just like the song Hard Times.
Yes.
And because, like I said, Sonic 3 I really enjoy. Sonic Knuckles is my favorite game out of the whole bunch. And of course, everybody's gonna be like, "Well, this is a disappointment." Well, I think it was a good game, and I think it was a great way to end the Sonic series on the Sega Genesis. And that is Sonic 3D Blast. I like the director's cut than I do with the original, because the director's cut fixes a lot of things, and there's actually a password system that you get to save your progress, and it also tells you the score and whatnot that was absent in the '96 one. Um, and yeah, I mean, and yeah, even though there's a timer in the game, you don't have to worry about the timer, because if it goes like 9:59 and it starts flashing, you don't lose a life or anything. It's just you don't get any bonus points for the time. So you can take your time basically. You don't have to worry about the timer. It's just gonna stare at you blinking the whole time while you try to complete the level. So that's pretty much that. But yeah, so Hard Times, awesome song. I really forgot to talk about that song. I really forgot to mention that. But yeah, so um, but like I said, guys, there's so much '80s music and whatnot. I don't really want to go over a lot, but that's pretty much almost every '80s music that we know. Probably, well, with the exception of the song "I Wan" from Flock of Seagulls. Um, I know you remember that one. I Wan. Um, and some other ones. Under Pressure, Queen David Bowie. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great songs, uh, of that time frame. So there's a lot of good songs in the '80s, and we're at 2 hours and 7 minutes. But
Yeah. Sorry, I'm back. I'm back. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's I mentioned "I Wan" by Flock of Seagulls.
Gotcha. Flock of Seagulls. That was an awesome song. Yes.
Yeah.
Pet
Um.
Boys. West End Girls.
hmm
That was another song.
But like I said, if you guys wanna see more '80s stuff, like I said, if you have this channel or not, because they usually have a block on MTV Classic called "I Want My '80s." That's where you can check it out. Uh, and
Oh,
yeah, we can talk about Kathy Dennis, because she did have a song in 1989. Even though it's from 1990, moved to this album, which we mentioned on the '90s music,
yes.
including Too Many Walls, which is one of my favorites. And that is Just Another Dream from 1989. Even though it says 1989 on Wikipedia, but in actuality, it came out on the 1990 album, moved to this. But yeah, the song's from '89. I don't know.
Ah,
Either Wikipedia is right or the album's right. Who knows? But either way, it's from 1989 or 1990 for that matter.
Yeah. I do remember Take It While It's Hot and Shake Your Love by Debbie Gibson.
And another song I forgot to mention by Cam Wild is a song called "You Keep Me Hanging On."
Yes, definitely.
That's another song I forgot to mention. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of great music out there in the '80s. Like we mentioned. Um,
Sting and the Police, Every Breath You Take, the
yeah,
and every little thing she does is magic.
yep, and so that's pretty much everything in a nutshell. And yes, look, obviously AC/DC and Metallica. Especially Metallica with um, Master of Puppets and whatnot, and AC/DC, obviously. But I want to talk more than just the meta stuff. So I know he's well. I mean, don't hate me on it, yeah. So that's that, obviously. Um, but yeah, so that's everything of the '80s, obviously. And I think we're gonna do one more thing, and then we're gonna wrap up the stream for tonight, because this has been a great stream. And yes, folks, Chris. Well, yeah, this is a great show, obviously.
Yeah.
But just so you guys know, Chris will probably, Chris won't be here for the next Sunday stream of BPT's mini podcast stream. But I think I know what I'm going to do for the theme, as far as the theme is concerned. And I'm going to be doing it on Sunday and whatnot, because unfortunately, my 7-day vacation is almost up. So I'll have to do it on a Sunday and whatnot. But it's going to be a fun stream. Think about what I'm going to be doing and whatnot. It's going to be a great stream next week on the 13th of August, because August 14th, which is on a Monday, I'm going to be really busy at Will One, especially doing this year's Summer Jam Party, which I am going to be attending. And it is going to be the biggest Summer Jam event ever. And I'm going to be attending. Now, what's going to suck is that I'm not going to have a microphone, so we're going to have to do it without the mic this year, unfortunately. But hey, it happens. So we're still going to do the show, and it's going to be a great Summer Jam Party, and I cannot wait. And that's next Monday, by the way. So that's that. Yeah. So anyway, that's everything of the 1980s music. I think we want to discuss a little bit of the Nintendo Entertainment System. And the 8-bit music of the 80s, especially 85.
Yeah.
So as you guys know, the Famicom turns 40 this year. Came out in 1983. And we have to wait 2 more years before the NES turns 40, the American version of Famicom. To be 40. And out of every thing that the NES has is the amazing library of games. But not only that, also is, the best 80s chiptune music of the 1980s. And you had a whole bunch of great video game music from starting with the NES in 85. And the songs that you probably remember are still well known, and that is, listening to the overworld theme of Super Mario Brothers, the iconic song by Koji Kondo of that game, which has the overworld theme, the underground theme, the water level theme, as well as the castle and whatnot. Um, and of course Gumshoe 1986 by Hip Tanaka or Hikaru Tanaka. And it has one of my favorite songs in the game, and that's the jungle level. Not only it's one of the toughest levels because you're all playing it with a light gun because all the game of Gumshoe is NES Zapper, so you have to use the NES Zapper. You can't use the traditional controller. You can use it, however, to pause the game. So that's something you can do, but the entire game is where you have to use the NES Zapper. And it has some good music too, especially the jungle music. And probably the skyscraper building is another good one. But yeah, I mean, I know the music's not as popular as some of Tanaka's other work, but it's a music you can listen to, especially the jungle music and the skyscraper. And obviously, one of Tanaka's most memorable music, and I know Chris can agree with me on this, is a song called, well, it's from the video game Metroid,
Yes, Metro.
which has that awesome uh, that layer music, that the enemies layer, which is really good. Like I said, I haven't played Metroid, but I don't know the it's something. It's his enemies layer. I don't know what the name of it, but that song is really good too. And of course the ending music is great. Yeah, so Metroid is so iconic for its theme and for the music. Um, of that one, and obviously another song from this video game, which a game that I know either you love it or you hate it, and that is Kid Icarus.
I like Kid Icarus. Yes.
And one thing you gotta watch out in the dungeon castles and 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4. You gotta watch out for that stupid eggplant wizard. Because if he throws that thing at you, then you're screwed, and you have to find a medical to get rid of that darn thing. If you think the one in Adventure Island is terrible, then yeah, Kid Icarus would be more painful than the Adventure Island game.
Oh,
Because if you get that, it will drain your health faster, and you'll be screwed. And you gotta collect, the fruits and stuff, to keep your energy ball up. But yeah, if you thought that was terrible in Adventure Island, then yeah, play Kid Icarus and have that thing stuck on your head.
yeah.
Although he's not as scary as the one in Adventure Island. I don't like it in Adventure Island, but in the Kid Icarus, he's not actually all that bad, and he's not really that scary looking. But yeah, so be on the lookout. Be careful.
He
Don't
just
let him
looks ugly.
get
Not
you.
scary,
He's
ugly.
terrible.
He's pretty ugly.
But yeah, the video game music is great too. Uh, especially the side scrolling one from top to bottom and then from left to right. I think the most difficult would be descending up, and the bottomless pit is on the bottom. As the screen scrolls down, you gotta be really careful not to fall in the pit. Oh, into the gap, even though his name is Pit. You don't want to fall into a pit, otherwise Pit will die from the pit, and it's game over. And I'm not going to say that name again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has some great music as well. Kid Icarus and of course Metroid. And I can't forget Ice Climber, the famous Ice Climber title theme from that game. I know not a lot of people like this game, but I do. Although the controls are kind of iffy and whatnot, similar to Super Mario Land. But yeah, Ice Climbers, and you got to get to the top, and you get to the bonus stage. and just to get as much points as you can and get through 32 mountains. But yeah, the theme song is so iconic in the game. Ice Climber has the most iconic title theme out there.
Oh yes.
And another game that is one of my favorite games, and why I love racing games still to this day. This is one of the best NES black box games. That has that nice pixelated thing from the actual video game. That's what I liked about the NES black box, is that it had that really nice close up of the sprite, which is really cool. That's probably my favorite part of these NES black box.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, it's really cool. Um, but anyway, the game that I'm talking about, this is one of my favorite games, called Excite Bike.
Yes.
It's a legendary game, and it's one of the best games ever. And I think Miyamoto had a hand in making that game, and it's a great game. I love that game to no end. It's awesome, and this is one of the first games you can create, and build a track in the track editor, and it's really cool. And the music is iconic too, especially the title theme, or whenever you get in first, second, or third, or if you came in last place, the game laughs at you and whatnot. I mean, there's not a lot of music in the game, but it has that funny sound effects too, especially when you crash, and it makes that funny crash noise. It's so funny. Or when you and a computer player crashes at the finish line, that makes it a epic moment to why this game is an awesome game to play. The only bad thing about it is, well, you can save your tracks, yes, but if you try to load them, you have to hit the reset button, because they didn't think about that at the time, to put a battery uh, inside of the cartridge that will let you save it. Now the other versions will let you do that and whatnot, but in the NES release, if you save it, that's great. But if you try to load it, it's and the game will be like nah, and you have to hit the reset button. So and all that hard work, and you save it and you try to load it, goes right in the dumpster fire.
Yeah.
But other than that, A Sight Bike is an awesome game. It's a legendary game, and it's one of my favorite games ever. And even if you're not a racing fan, this game is fun as heck, and it's a great game.
Yeah.
So the other video game music, obviously Super Mario Bros. 2 from Koji Kondo.
Yeah.
That one, which has some great music. Especially the boss battle music, the levels and whatnot, and the underground and whatnot. Even the final battle against Walt. So there's a lot of well-known iconic music in Super Mario Bros. 2, and whatnot. And of course, Koji Kondo's masterpiece from 1987, and I love this game, and I had it on two cartridges, one as a gold cartridge and just the standard one as part of the classic NES series. So I had two copies of this game, and I still played this game, and I love this game. I love the music. I love everything about this game, and it's a great game on the NES. And that game is The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
And The Legend of Zelda is not only an awesome game still, and it was one of the first games you could actually save on a battery backup and whatnot. But this game has some great music, such as the Overworld theme, or the title screen song, or the title screen theme, which is so iconic and it's amazing. I love it. And the one that gets stuck in your head when you play it is listening to the fabulous underground labyrinth levels. From level 1 to level 8, you get to hear that really awesome song by Koji Kondo when you go in and you start your first level and you get to hear that awesome song that plays. It's so iconic. It's the most iconic song ever in that game when you go into a dungeon, to find the secret item that you're gonna need and to fight bosses like the Dongro or the Ultra Mantis
Yeah.
or the two-headed Leok, or you know a bunch of others, even the Diddarber and the Dongros. Although level 2 is probably easy, but there's one room that's not so easy. But level 2 is a really easy level.
Yes.
Um, and of course, when you get to level 9, then the music changes, and we go from this nice music and whatnot to let you know that you're in Ganon's lair, which is level 9.
Yes.
And in order to get to level 9, you have to complete all 8 levels and get all 8 Triforce piece before you do level 9. Because when I was a kid, I could not find level 8 at all. Because I would get past all 7 levels, but I couldn't find level 8. And
Mhm.
until on Game Facts, I think it was Game Facts, because at the time there was no YouTube back then. And I looked at Game Facts, and it told me where you find level 8. So it took me years upon years until I discovered it on Game Facts. And that's how you would find level 8. And how you would find level 8 is you burn the bush, the lonely tree, you burn it with a candle, and you see a hidden stairway. You go in it, and it takes you to level 8.
Yep.
And as a kid, I wouldn't know what level 8 was. So I just said, well, you know what? Screw it. I go to level 9, and then it tells me ones who don't have have enough Triforce cannot go in. So I wasn't able to beat the game. But once I found level 8, and you get to level 9 is you know, probably the toughest level on either the first quest or the second quest. Probably both of them, both tough. Because you gotta get 2 items. One you need to kill Ganon, and the other one is optional, but it really does help you out in a way and improves your hit points and whatnot. And that's the red ring that turns your tonic or tunic to a red dress, and that ups the damage from being hit go up by at least 75%. So you can take, so yeah, so having that is probably a necessary, an essential. And I would not pass up on the red ring. Get the red ring if you want to survive level 9. Because
Mm,
otherwise, if you can beat it with the blue ring, but it's gonna be a bit tougher if you
mhm.
don't if you do it that way.
Yeah.
And if you get the red ring, then yeah, you get past more dangerous enemies like the Wizwobs, which I can't stand, or those annoying light enemies, or that bubbles that take your sword for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, um, but yeah. So obviously the music in Zelda is so iconic. Uh, Listening to the labyrinth dungeon level music, to the overworld map, or the title screen for that matter, or even level 9 music as well. And then you hear the continue music when you get a game over and you see the continue, retry and save. You get to hear that continue song, and when you beat the game, it plays that song for a brief, for like 15-20 seconds, and then it has that 8-bit bass to it,
Yes.
and it goes to the end credits. So obviously, The Legend of Zelda is so iconic, and not only the gameplay and everything of the game, and exploring new ideas and words, but also listening to the amazing soundtrack by Kondo, and of course, that one song in Link to the Past, that Fire Select. That's probably my favorite song out of the entire game, and the fairies one too. When you see the fairies and whatnot, and it plays that awesome song. Yeah, that's probably my favorite song from that game. But that came out in '91. Or 92 rather, 92 for the Super Nintendo, 91 in Japan, 92 in America. And
Yeah.
that's why I got my years mixed up. So, yeah, I got my years mixed up and everything. I know, I mean, I get it mixed up. Um, yeah, so that's, so that, obviously, The Legend of Zelda. Now, there's a sequel of The Legend of Zelda called Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Now, this is a game that I have a love-hate relation with this game.
Yeah.
Love is for the music. The music is really good. Probably not as good as the first one, but the second one has some good music, especially that when you walk into the palace and whatnot, and you listen to that palace theme music. Yeah, it's so well known and it's pretty good, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy the music in the game. Um, what I don't like of Zelda 2 is the punishing difficulty that's in the game, and I know Chris can agree with me on that, but the difficulty is something that is so punishing difficulty.
Yes.
And if you die and if you lose all your lives, yeah, and this is the only Zelda game that has a life system, like in Super Mario Brothers. But this one, you got to be really careful because if you lose all your lives, then especially if you get in like Fifth Palace or whatnot, then you start all the way back to the beginning, and you don't want to go for that pain and suffering, and try to level back up again and get everything back, from getting a game over. Who wants to do that?
I
It was so brutal, and that's why I don't play Zelda 2 as much as because of its difficulty. I do like some of the aspects of the game, being a platformer, which is the only game that I know is platformer, although Link's Awakening has some platforming.
yeah.
But yeah, there's platforming and you have to jump against, bottomless pits or water or lava for that matter. So you really have to be careful and you don't fall into the gaps and whatnot. And I think this is one of Miyamoto's tough games, if you will, because there was another game that was like that, and that's Super Mario Brothers 2, the Famicom game, where it's tough as nails. So yeah, so this game is brutally difficult, and it's punishing too. And yeah, so this was before Battletoads. If you thought that was painful, try play Zelda 2 and see how far you go before you get a game over, and then Ganon laughs at you, and then you start all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh, yeah.
So I would rather just turn off the system and play just the original Legend Zelda, because at least the first Zelda game, when you get a game over, you can start back at any level, including level 9, and you can keep doing that as much as you want till you beat it. But non-Zelda 2. Now, if you get to the Great Palace, you do fortunately get to start from the Great Palace. If you lose all your lives and get a game over, at least the game cuts you a break and lets you continue from the Great Palace. Now, how come they didn't do it in the other palaces is beyond me. That I don't know who came up with that great idea. That all when you lose all your lives and then you just start over. I'm
Yeah.
like, is this really a game that we want to play? A game where you lose all your lives and you gotta go all the way back. I'm like, spend hours and hours and then you go all the way back. Who wants to do that?
Exactly.
Who wants to go through all the mess, of leveling up and upgrading your life meter, your magic meter. This was the first game that had a magic, and you had to worry about that now, and that kind of kills the mood of the game because you didn't have to worry about that in the first Zelda game, but you have to do it in the second one. That might be a good or a bad thing depending on what Zelda game you play.
Yeah.
So that's why I have a love hate of this game. But again, I love the soundtrack. It's by the same composer who did the Ice Climber song. Yeah, Ice Climber, and I want to say Ice Hockey, but I'm not positive on that. And probably a Sight Bike as well. This is probably out of all of those, this is probably the most famous song, the most famous music by this composer. I don't know the name of that composer, but I know that person did Ice Climber and a Sight Bike, and later did the NES Open Tournament Golf.
Yes.
But yeah, so Zelda 2, the game may be punishing, but the soundtrack is really good. Just listen to the soundtrack if that's all you really care about video game music is the soundtrack. Just listen to that. That's what I would do. Listen to the soundtrack because it makes a huge difference. So anyway, as I'm sitting back down, so we're at 2 hours and 35 minutes, and but yeah, we're gonna be wrapping up here. But yeah, so another video game music, obviously Friday the 13th, which is not that great of a game to begin with, and the song is not that great, or the soundtrack. But it does have one good song in the entire game, and that's the cabin music. That's the only good thing about it, is that cabin music. But otherwise, the soundtrack's not that great. And the game is not that great either, because I played it, and it sucks. You know what I would rather play? A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Because that game is done by Whale, which means it has David Wise as the composer. And Friday the 13th was developed by Atlas. And it's composed by Takayama, who did one of my favorite songs in the video game from Atlas and Hudson Soft in 1990 called XYZ, or simply Zexus, or Z, however you pronounce it. Great soundtrack. Much better soundtrack than Friday the 13th. And he also did the video game music for the 1992 game by Tato called Panic Restaurant.
Yes.
So that's pretty much that. But yeah, so Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a decent game. At least it's better than Friday the 13th. There's some problems with the game. But other than that, it's a decent game to play, and I'd much rather play that than a nightmare of a game, Friday the 13th. I would never play that game ever again. Because I played it one time, and I got frustrated, and I'm like, nope. I went ahead and played Mega Man 2, which, by the way, is a much better game, and it has a killer soundtrack as well. One of the best soundtracks in the game. Definitely Mega Man 2. Mega Man, the first Mega Man game had that god awful bar chart, but the music is pretty good too. Really good music for the first one. Although people will agree that Mega Man 2 has probably the best soundtrack, and I agree.
Yeah.
And that came out in 1989. Of course, Monster Party has some great music, except for Level 6, which is hardly a song. But the music's pretty good. Monster Party, also 1989, by Human and Bandai.
Gotcha.
So let's see. Ice Hockey from 1988 has some good songs in it, especially that one. And the Konami games had great music, like Gradius, which
Yeah.
has some great music. And one of my favorite space shooters, Life Force on the NES.
Oh
I
yeah.
loved it. I really enjoy Life Force, and not only the game is solid, but the music is fantastic. Especially when you get into the third level and you get the fire flames from the top and the bottom. You know what level I'm talking about. But yeah, that song is really awesome too, and it's my favorite song from the game. And that's from level 3, the third level. So you
Oh,
may remember that. Um, Probably Jackal, maybe.
Jack Jackal. Yeah,
Um,
I like Jackal. Yeah.
Goonies 2, like I mentioned, from Konami.
Yeah.
Um, Probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from '89, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and probably, well, I don't know. And I don't know about uh, the Adventures of Bayou Billy because that game was really painful.
Yeah.
Although the music's
Oh
good,
yeah.
the music's really good, but the difficulty is so high.
I,
You, the beat 'em up is the worst part, but when you do the shooting level or the driving, it's actually not bad. It's
yeah.
just that beat 'em up is what makes a game tough. Is the beat 'em up levels,
Yes.
but the driving stages are not that difficult. I mean, it can be, but it's not as punishing. You just have to slow down and not get hit by a grenade or get hit by a sign.
Yeah.
You got to be really careful. Um, Metal Gear has some good music too,
Uh,
although the game's not that good. Washington Attack has some great music.
yeah.
I remember that game.
Uh,
And the unlicensed game that I want to talk about from 1989 by Color Dreams. This is one of my favorite Color Dream games. Now, yes, Color Dreams has also made some terrible games, just flat out terrible. But the one game that is not so terrible um, is a game from 1989, and this is a childhood favorite of mine. Back in my home state, and it came in that baby blue cartridge,
yes.
and and yeah, you really know that it's unlicensed. The game that has memorable music to me is a game called Crystal Mines,
Oh, cool.
and that game is really fun. It's a great puzzle game. The one bad thing about the game is after you get past level 50 and you go for level 51, then all the levels from level 1 to 50 go backwards. So you have to do it uh, about 49 more times, and you gotta do it more backwards and with less time. So
Yeah.
that's probably the only thing bad about it. But other than that, this is an awesome game, and the music is so iconic to me, and it's a childhood memory of mine. When it comes to listening to the stage music, when you hear it all the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, Crystal Mines definitely the definitely in my list. I want to say Pusterminator, but I think that came out in 1990. But that's another good game, and by Color Dreams, and it's not terrible. And that one you have to you're the Pusterminator, and you gotta kill all the buds and whatnot till you get to the final boss, which is the rat. But
Yes.
yeah, Pusterminator and Color Dreams are the only two good games by Color Dream. And like I said, they're not all great games, but they were certainly really good games, especially Crystal Mines, which is the top of my list. And probably that one game too, Meta Fighter or whatever it's called, that space shooter by Color Dreams.
Yeah.
That's another good one. But otherwise, the other games I would just pass.
Yeah.
and the music is kind of lackluster. Uh, in all the games. But Crystal Mines has some good songs, especially that one, and Push Terminator has some one too. Although it doesn't have as much music as you get in the other games. So you keep hearing the song over and over again on Crystal Mines and Push Terminator, and it doesn't
Yeah.
change the music whatsoever. And they got real lazy about that, I think. Um, and of course, you got Baby Boomer, which I played. I don't remember the music, but I know the game.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so Crystal Mines came out, I believe, in '89, and the rest of them came out in like 90, 91. But we're talking about the '80s.
Yes.
Um, and of course, let's talk about the one big game from 1989, and that is Tetris
Yeah.
for the NES, and of course the Tengen one. Although everybody likes the Tengen one, but most of them are familiar with the Nintendo version of Tetris, especially the three different songs you get to play in the game.
Yeah.
Like Music One, which is that Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, the Nutcracker, which has also been remixed in Tetris Effect Connected, which has that song in it, and it reminds me of it, and I like that song. The one that Luke likes in Tetris is Music Two, which is that heavy kind of thing in the game, especially when you get close to the top and it speeds up and the game's like, oh my god, you in some serious trouble, and that music goes so fast. I'm like, oh my god, uh, I'm gonna be losing my patience here when I top out. But yeah, that's one of the things about the NES Tetris is when you get too close to the top, the music speeds up, and then it makes you want to freak out and like, oh my god, now I'm in some serious trouble, you know, and so that's Music Two, obviously. The one that I like the best. Sorry, Luke, but I like this song because it reminds me of my grandmother. In fact, her birthday is going to be coming up in November. Wish she would have been 90 this year had she been around. Um, this is a song that I play all the time whenever I'm playing Tetris or in Tetris Blast in '96. I usually play the third song, and that's in the contest mode. And I do the same for this one too, and that's Music Three. It has that nice soft. It's just it's so relaxing and so soft, and it's amazing. And I like soft stuff, than the one in Music Two. I mean, the all great songs. Don't get me wrong, but Music Three, in my opinion, is my favorite out of all of them. So obviously, the music in Tetris on the NES is great. Um, I know you can agree with me on that. Um, but yeah, the Tetris NES soundtrack is really good. Um, but yeah, so that's Tetris, and obviously there's the Tengen version, which the music is okay, but not as good as the Nintendo version.
I'm with you, Remix. Yeah.
And of course you got music like Wad Waser from Nobuo Matsu, who would later become the Final Fantasy composer from 1990, obviously. But he did music for Square, like Wad Waser, the 3D World Warner, the Amazing World of 3D World Warner, And of course, Rad Racer, and of course, he did music for Rad Racer 2, though that came out in 1990. So I can't count that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, so you got that. So you got pretty much every video game music out there. Bobble Bobble for the NES by Tato. Um, Maybe Legend of Cage or Cage
Yeah. Yeah.
by Tato. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great video game music. Venture Island has some good music, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, Bomberman from 1989 has some good music. Although I like the Bomberman 2 music a lot more than the first one, but the music in Bomberman 1 is really good. Especially when you get a power up and it changes the music. It's really good. Uh, yes, the music's really good in that game. Um, and I forgot one other game, and that is Disney Capcom's DuckTales from 1989. So what can we say about this game, folks? Well,
Yeah.
it has not only great gameplay and it's somewhat of a challenge, although there's a challenge in the game, but it's nowhere difficult and whatnot, and that's something. Because like I said, this was targeted for the youngsters, for the younger people who don't want a serious challenging game. Although you could do that if you bump the difficulty up, but on the easy, it's pretty good. I mean, you can take a free hit before you lose your hit point. So yeah, it's a great game. The game is kind of short, but it does have an excellent soundtrack
Yeah.
in the game. Like the jungle music or the Transylvania,
Oh, yeah.
um, to the Himalayans and whatnot, and you got the African mines, and of course one of the greatest songs ever from one of the coolest stage in DuckTales, because this happens to be one of my favorite songs ever in this game. And if you try to have that song when you stream the game, then they won't like that, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm talking about the song that you all know when you do that fifth level in the game, and that is the moon.
Yes, the moon.
The moon theme song is one of the best songs in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Period. All the music in this game is great. Even the Ducktales theme, the NES Ducktales theme is really good too. So the soundtrack in this game is awesome, and the gameplay is great and fun. And the challenge is there, but it's not nothing frustration or anything. And in fact, I have this game on the Disney Afternoon Collection on the Xbox. And the reason why I bought that collection, not because of DuckTales, but also one of my favorite games that came out in 1990, and I forgot to mention that in the 90s music, and that is Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, which is one of my favorite Disney Capcom games ever made. It's probably the best Capcom game, period.
Yes.
And DuckTales would be a close second when it comes to the Disney Capcom games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I know that the game that you remember is Ghost and Goblins, which has that iconic song too,
Yeah.
and it's
Indeed.
the
Indeed.
most difficult game ever. I know it's something, and why people don't play that game.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, We all know that. And I want to say that this game's from '89, but I could be wrong. It's a game by Camco, and it's based on a point and click adventure game. And the game is called Shadowgate,
Yeah.
and it has great music too. And I think the NES version, they got rid of the time limit that was in the original game on Mac computers.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, Shadowgate.
definitely.
Another great music would be um, probably Slalom on the NES, which is
Yes.
one of the first games
Yeah.
made by Rare.
Pro-Am. Yeah.
Um, and of
Yeah.
course, Anticipation for the NES. Luke's
Yeah.
favorite game and my favorite game, and it has good music by David Wise.
Yeah.
Um, and also the Game Tech games that were by Will. Wheel of
Yeah.
Fortune and Jeopardy both have great theme songs, especially the Jeopardy one has that amazing 8-bit rendition of the Jeopardy theme song by David Wise.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So that's that one. Jeopardy. The Guardian Legend from Bartabun. Deadly Towers is not a good game. That game is awful, and the music's not that great either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that game. I want to say Raid on Bundling Bay, but that hardly has any music. You just hear the bits and bleeps. You don't hear anything else. But that's a good game though. Wait on Bundling Bay. That was a game by Will Wright, who
Yeah.
would later do the Sims.
Yeah. The Sims. Pretty awesome game. Yeah.
Yeah.
City. Yeah. Did they do Sim City
Uh,
or
and
not?
I mentioned Bomberman, and I forgot to mention
Oh,
Mighty Bomb Jack.
what about? I got another one. Speaking of bomber man, uh, Mighty Bomb Jack.
Yeah, Mighty Bomb Jack has some good music.
Yes, definitely, absolutely.
Um, yeah, Baba Baba I mentioned one of my favorite games by Tato on the NES, and it's my favorite port. And if you people don't like the NES port, well, don't talk to me because
Yeah,
it's a great because I like the NES
yeah.
version.
Bubble Bobble's a good game. Yeah.
I want to say Kiwi Craze, but I think that came out in 1990, and that was by Tim and Jeff Fallon.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I don't think that came out in the 80s. I think it came out in late 90, which is also known as the New Zealand story. But in America, it's called Kiwi Craze.
Oh yeah.
Don't know why. Um, yeah. So Shadowgate, I want to say it's from 90, from the 80s, but I could be wrong. Super Mario Brothers 3, even though it says 1988, but that's Japan. And the game didn't came out here in America till February 12th, 1990, or February 5th, 1990. But that game has some of the best music too in the game. But Super Mario Bros. 3 came out in 1990, but in Japan in '88. So
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna count that, even though it's my favorite game, my number one favorite. But I can't count it, unfortunately. And I don't think I'm gonna count Zeke either. ETSYZ or Zeke, because that game came out in '90, even though it says 1989 Hudson Soft at the title screen. It's actually from 1990, and it's actually Atlas who developed the game, not Hudson Soft. Hudson published it. Um, but yeah, Mighty Bomb Jack is a good one. Star Soldier has some good ones. Star Force has one. The Capcom games, Section Z, Mega Man 2. Ghosts and Goblins, even if that game is so painful. Wizards and Warriors. I forgot about that one.
Oh yes.
Wizards and Warriors has some great music. Even the second one, both by David Wise. The first one was by Will. The second one was by Zippo or whatever. And those games were published by Acclaim Entertainment, and those are well-known games. Wizards and Warriors. The third one, not so much. I don't like that one. Um, of course, Double Dragon 1 and 2. The third one sucks. Double Dragon. World Class Track Meet by Nintendo, and the one by Bandai that Luke likes to make fun of and whatnot, but in a good way. And it's part of the Family Fun Fitness. Is called Athletic Word, which has that great title screen song, which Luke does a parody of it like Jeopardy, but it's actually Athletic Word for the NES.
Definitely. Yeah.
And we are at 3 hours into the stream, but we're going to be wrapping up here and ending the stream.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm just trying to see what other 80s. I think that's pretty much it for that point. Kung Fu, yeah, maybe. Gumshoe from '86, Metroid, Kid Icarus, Rad Racer.
Yeah.
Adventure Island, obviously. Tetris for the NES. All the Konami ones. Yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers everything, almost everything of the video game music, and that started with the NES. Because I don't think the Atari 2600 was capable of doing music, but I think it did, maybe.
Yeah.
But you would have to wait till the NES, and that's where you gotten bits and bleeps, and you would hear some of the most iconic video game music out there, and that's all thanks to the NES in October of '85. That people are humming along still to this day of their favorite video game soundtrack, whether it's Mario or the Zelda game, or even the sequel for that matter. But yeah, I mean, these are video game music that you would cherish, and the moon theme from DuckTales.
Yeah.
Has some of the best music as well.
Oh yes.
And obviously Super Mario Land on the Game Boy has great music from Tanaka. Especially the ending, it never gets tiring. Tetris for the Game Boy has some great music. Teenage Mutant well, actually, no, that came out in 1990, so I can't count that one. But yeah, I mean, the games from 1989, so they had some great music too. But the 90s is where it really shined for the Game Boy when it came to excellent music, and we talked about that on the 90s music, on I believe last week.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that, I think that's gonna do it for BPT's mini podcast extravaganza for August 6th. And this was 3 hours of fun and torture, but more fun than torture. Because we talked a lot of stuff of the 80s, the generation that I was born. My sister was born as well in in '84, and Chris in 1982.
Yeah.
And a bunch of others who grew up in the 80s, although I came late, because '89. But obviously, I won't forget, we didn't start the fire.
Yeah.
The Elton John's Sleeping with the Past, and other stuff from 1989. But yeah, I mean, 80s is such a generation of music and everything, that a lot of radio stations are playing nothing but 80s. And sometimes they add 90s to the rotation, and as well as some 70s. But like I said, they got rid of the 60s completely. And yeah, I'm probably want to do the 60s music first and then do the 70s, because 60s is my thing, when it comes to it. But we'll see what happens. But it's not going to be on the next Sunday stream. But like I said, I will come up with something unique for that one, coming your way. So stay tuned, folks, for that. So as always, guys, if you enjoy what you see, hit the subscribe button. To subscribe to my YouTube channel, also subscribe to Retro Media Vision, and subscribe to Luke Jeffers' channel if you want, and whatnot, and Luke J6295, and of course me. You can subscribe either one. So yeah, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this. And if you want to be notified for when I go live or I upload a new video, hit that notification bell icon, as Billy mentioned on our Discord server, or on a Discord call, rather, not the server. Yeah, so you can hit that notification bell for when I upload a new video or when I go live. Either way. And one other thing too, I don't think Gilligan's Island came out. The Adventures of Gilligan's Island came out in '89. Although it says on the copyright screen, it says 1989 Bandai, but I'm not buying that. I think it came out in late 1990s, so I'm not really buying that. But yeah, so that's one thing I forgot to mention. But yeah, so hit the notification bell, and you can check me out on Threads. I'm on Threads now. And if you wish to donate, you can do so. I have that in the description, although it's totally optional. But if you do donate, it will help out, for me getting a new mic or getting something that I'm gonna need. So it's not like I'm gonna take money from you, because I'm not that evil. But just to help me along the way, if you can do that. But it's totally optional, and you can get that on the description. You find all that in the description of where you can find me and everything. You can find Retro Media Vision on YouTube. And where he's going to be streaming and all the other things. And of course, Chris Candy plays his hits on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that jazz. So whatever streaming service you got, well, you find it on that and just play it and be listening to Walkman Beat, and you get a kick out of it.
Yes.
So there you go on that. And so that's pretty much it on that. And so anyway, want to thank Chris Candy for joining me for this epic 3-hour stream of the 80s music.
Thank you so much for having me here, Remix. Appreciate it.
And this was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I certainly did. And yeah, so anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude tonight's stream on Brandon Palmer Television. And of course, speaking of which, BPT is going to get a new makeover. So stay tuned, because I'm going to have to design it first and everything in PowerPoint. And I know PowerPoint is for sissies and everything, but that's not true, because I use PowerPoint for my work. And that's why I have it on Windows 11. And yeah, because I have a brand new PC with Windows 11 Pro and the desktop PowerPoint. Because like I said, I can get creative too. Because I make great logos for Wheel One and everything, and I know that I can do a great job of coming up with something new for Brandon Palmer Television YouTube channel. It's going to be unlike anything you have ever seen. And I'm also going to update the intro thing as well, with the new look, the new channel ID and whatnot. So you're going to be seeing that as well. So be on the lookout, everybody. The new layout of BPT will be coming your way whenever I get around to it. It's going to be exciting for sure. So for Chris Kennedy and everybody, this is
Yeah.
remixplum saying have a great night and thank you for tuning in to this awesome BPT's mini podcast stream. And again, thanks Chris for joining in. I know this was lengthy, but this was fun and certainly had a blast doing this. Like I say on every stream.
Oh, yes.
So for Chris Kennedy and everybody, this is Women's Plum saying goodbye. And now all I gotta do is hit that. Not only I hit the end button, but I also get to play this because that's what we do to wrap up the stream. And I'm probably gonna do it 2 times because it doesn't register the first time around. So we do it we do it 2 times, and then we end the stream. All right. So anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.
Have a great
And this will conclude BPT's mini podcast Extravaganza for August 6th. Have a great night, and thank you for watching tonight's podcast. This was fun.